Good morning everyone, and we are the passionate quality educators. So our topic for today is all about curricular reforms in teacher education. Outcome-based education, or OBE, became the fundamental philosophy of higher education in the Philippines lately. All curricula, including that of teacher education, will be anchored on the concept of OBE in terms of course designing, instructional planning, teaching, and assessing students' learning. So in this topic, we are going to highlight all about the outcome-based education for teacher preparation curriculum. So here are the learning outcomes for this lesson. Number 1, define what is outcome-based education as this applies to teacher education. Second, analyze the 4 principles in outcome-based education. Third, describe how teaching and learning relate to OBE. And number 4, explain how the achieved learning outcomes will be assessed. And lastly, summarize the prospective teacher's roles and responsibilities in the implementation of the outcome-based education. So what is outcome-based education? So according to Spady 2004, he defined OBE as clearly focusing and organizing everything in the educational system around the essential for all the students to do successfully at the end of their learning experiences. So it mainly focuses on the outcomes of the students' performance. So that's OBE according to Spady 2004. Additionally, it is also the start with a clear picture of what is important for students to be able to do. Then organizing the curriculum, instruction, and assessment to make sure that learning happens. So that's all about the definition of outcome-based education. So to define and clarify further, answers to the following questions should be addressed by the teachers. So here are the questions being raised. So number 1, what do we want these students to learn? Number 2, why do we want students to learn these things? Number 3, how can we best help students to learn these things? And lastly, how will you know when the students have learned? So in recent years, there has been an increasing attention on outcomes-based education for several reasons. So this includes return of investments and accountability, which are driven by political, economic, and educational reasons. So Spady premised that in outcomes-based education, number 1, we have all students can learn and succeed, but not at the same time or in the same way, because students are diversified and we are considering diversity among learners. So others might have this kind of learning style, or this one is applicable for this kind of student, this learning approach. So successful learning promotes even more successful learning. So if there is a successful learning when you teach this certain class and it is in success, then it promotes even more successful learning because students became more interested and they are motivated to learn more, and it arises their curiosity and interest to learning. So schools and teachers control the conditions that will determine if the students are successful in school learning. So it depends also on the schools and teachers on how they manage the classroom and especially the learners. So there are 4 essential principles in OBE, or outcome-based education. So we have the principle 1, which is the clarity of focus. So A clear focus on what teachers want students to learn is the primary principle in OBE. So it is stated in the clarity of focus. So teachers should bear in mind that the outcome of teaching is learning. So to achieve this, teachers and students should have a clear picture in mind of what knowledge, skills, values must be achieved at the end of teaching learning process. So this is like looking straight ahead so that the target will be reached. So you should have a set of goals to be achieved. So second, we have principle number 2 is designing backward. So why is it designing backward? So this principle is related to the first. So they are interrelated with each other. So the clarity of focus might affect this principle number 2. So at the beginning of the curriculum design, the learning outcome has to be clearly defined. So what to achieve at the end of formal schooling is determined as the beginning. So decisions are always traced to desired results, and this means that planning, implementing, or teaching and assessing should be connected to the outcomes. So there are interconnection of the objectives and your type of learning approach to students. So next is the principle number 3. So it's all about the high expectations. So establishing high expectations, challenging standards of performance will encourage students to learn better. This is linked to the premise that successful learning promotes more successful learning, as mentioned by Spady in 1994. So this is parallel to the Thorndike's law of effect, which states that success reinforces learning, motivates, builds confidence, and encourages learners to do better. So as what I have said, if students feel success, and it will drive them to do more and pick their interest on learning more and doing better. So next is the principle number 4, which is expanded opportunities. So in OBE, all students are expected to excel. Hence, equal expanded opportunities should be provided. So as advocates of multiple intelligence say, every child has a genius in him or herself, hence is capable of doing the best. So learners develop inborn potentials if corresponding opportunities and support are given to nurture. So students are given different opportunities. So multiple intelligence is there to guide them on what field they are excelling or what field they are good at. So that's all about the 4 essential principles in OBE which is necessary to consider. So teaching and learning in OBE. So number 1, teachers must prepare students adequately. So this is the number 1 tips in teaching learning in OBE. So this can be done if the teachers know what they want the students to learn and what learning outcomes to achieve. So prerequisite knowledge is important. So thus a review is necessary at the start of a lesson. So you already know that teachers when they start before they start a lesson, they ask us for recapitulation about the lesson last week or last meeting. So second, teachers must create a positive learning environment. So students should feel that regardless of individual uniqueness, the teacher is always there to help. Teacher and student relationship is very important. The classroom atmosphere should provide respect to the diverse kind of learners. So there are diversity of learners, and teachers should address different learning approach and create positive learning environment for conducive learning to happen. Next is teachers must help their students to understand what they have to learn, why they should learn it, what use it will be now and the future, and how will they know that they have learned. So in this lesson, it talks about the goals and the learning of the students on how they will apply the knowledge in the near future, and how do they know if they learn this kind of knowledge? So next is teachers must use a variety of teaching methods. The most appropriate strategy should be used taking into account most learning outcomes teachers want the students to achieve. Also consider are the contents, the characteristic of the students, the resources available, and the teaching skill of the teacher. Even if OBE is learner-centered, sometimes more direct, time-tested methods of teaching will be appropriate. So there are variety of teaching methods, and there are factors that affect the teaching learning process and the outcome-based education being applied. So there are materials needed to consider, which are the contents, the characteristics of students, and how the teacher deals with the students and its attitude. So next is teachers must provide students enough opportunities to use knowledge and skills that they gain. So when students do this, they can explore with new learning, correct errors, and adjust to their thinking. Application of learning is encouraged rather than mere accumulation. So it is important that students know how to apply what they have learned. So if it is just a mere knowledge and it is not applied, then it is not learning. So it is necessary for students to do hands-on activities or any simulation activities that can encourage and use their critical thinking skills or logical thinking skills. So next is teachers must help students to bring each learning to a personal closure that will make them aware of what they learned. So for instance, teachers must create motivation before starting a lesson. So it excites students' enthusiasm and entertainment on their and arises their interest to learn more and discover more about this lesson. So here are the additional key points in teaching learning in OBE, which shows the shift from a traditional to an OBE view. So in traditional view, we have instruction, inputs and resources. Knowledge is transferred by the teacher. Teacher dispenses knowledge. Teachers and students are independent and in isolation. While in the OBE view, we have learning outcomes. Knowledge already exists in the minds of the learner. Teachers are designers of methods, and teachers and students work in teams. So, in comparison, instruction and learning, so in traditional view, the teacher instructs and the students will listen. While in the OBE view, it's all about learning, so it focuses on learning. So, second, we have inputs and resources and learning outcomes. So, it's all about, in OBE, we have learning outcomes, so it focuses on the goals. Knowledge is transferred by the teacher, and knowledge already exists in the minds of the learner. So, it's in the traditional view, it's like spoon feeding. So, it's just like the chalk talk approach in which the teacher talks and the students listen. So, while in the OBE view, there is an interaction between the teacher and the students. So, because there is a prerequisite knowledge before a start of a lesson. So, we have teacher dispenses knowledge, and teachers are designers of methods. So, teachers in OBE will always find a more suitable learning approach for the class. So, teachers and students are independent and in isolation. While in the OBE view, teachers and students work in teams. So, in the OBE view, there is collaboration. While in the traditional view, just the students will answer this, and they are not having collaboration between other students. So the OBE view, we can say that it is the more appropriate type of education used for a classroom, so that learning will be effective and conducive.
So next is assessment of learning outcomes in OBE. Assessment in OBEY should also be guided by the four principles of OBEY, which are clarity of focus, designing backwards, high expectations, and expanded opportunity. It should contribute to the objective of providing students learning. Since in OBEY, there is need first to establish a clear vision of what the students are expected to learn. Desired learning outcomes, then assessment becomes an embedded part of the system. So to be useful in OBEY system, assessment should be guided by the following principles. So there are four following principles. So first, assessment procedure should be valid. Procedure and tools should actually accept intents to test. So number two is assessment procedure should be reliable. The results should be consistent. So number three is assessment procedure should be fair. Culture, background, and other factors should not influences assessment procedure. So the last one, number four, is assessment should reflect the knowledge and skills that are important to the students. So learners' responsibility for learning. In OBEY, students are responsible for their own learning and progress. Nobody can learn for the learner. It is only the learner himself herself who can drive himself herself to learn. Thus learning is a personal matter. So teachers can only facilitate that learning define the learning outcomes to be achieved and assessment the students to achieve those outcomes. Students have the bigger responsibility to achieve those outcomes. So in this way, they will be able to know that whether they are learning or not. One of the great benefits of outcomes-based education is that it makes students aware of what they should be learning, why they are learning it, what they are actually learning, and what they should do when they are learning. All of this will conclude with the achieved learning outcomes. In terms of students' perspective, there are common questions will guide them as they learn under the OBEY curriculum framework. So, to guide the students in OBEY learning, they should ask themselves the following questions. So, there are 6 following questions. So, number 1, what do I have to learn? And number 2, why do I have to learn it? And number 3, what will I be doing while I am learning? So number 4, how will I know that I am learning what I should be learning? So number 5 is, will I have any say in what I learn? Last one, number 6, how will I be assessed?
Competencies of quality teachers as mandated by the Teacher Education Program outcomes. All teacher education degree program, as mandated by the Commission on Higher Education, will produce teachers who show evidence of the following achieve outcomes after 4 years of schooling and earn a degree. Competencies are the skills and knowledge that enable a teacher to be successful. To maximize student learning, teachers must have expertise in a wide-ranging array of competencies in a especially complex environment where hundreds of critical decisions are required each day. Outcome 1. Demonstrated basic and higher levels of literacy for teaching and learning. In order to demonstrate that, we should understand literacy learning, know the standards, know the students as learners, to set a high expectation for students and encourage risk-taking, use a flexible range of teaching strategies, and engage students in challenging content. Outcome 2. Demonstrated deep and principled understanding of the teaching and learning process. Graduates will demonstrate their understanding of intellectual, cognitive, social, and emotional development and other characteristics of the diversity of learners in creating an environment of respect and rapport and a culture for all learners, for all students, and in the implementation of classroom procedures, behavior, management, and the organization of the learning environment to assure a focus on learning. Outcome 3. mastered and applied the subject matter content and pedagogical principles appropriate for teaching and learning. Graduates are expected to deliver meaningful learning experiences for all students by integrating their knowledge of content, pedagogy, the learner, and the learning environment, engaging in the reflective instructional cycle of planning, constructing, assessing, and adjusting based on data, and applying a variety of communication, instructional, and assessment. Outcome 4. Applied wide range of teaching-related skills in curriculum development, instructional material production, learning assessment, and teaching delivery. Graduates are expected to demonstrate their commitment to continuous self-improvement by engaging in professional learning, collaborative practice with colleagues, reflection on practice, and investigation of ideas to improve teaching and learning that contribute to the renewal of the teaching profession. Outcome 5. Articulated and applied clear understanding of how educational process relate to political, historical, social, and cultural contexts. Graduates will demonstrate teacher leadership by participating in the development or implementation of the school-wide mission strategic planning, continuous improvement process, curriculum initiatives, student support and management system, and support a school-wide learner-centered culture by facilitating school, family, and community connections, maintaining an environment that fosters student learning, and demonstrating a commitment to ethical and equitable behavior. Outcome 6. Facilitated learning in various classroom settings, diverse learners coming from different cultural backgrounds. During classroom interactions and instruction, teachers must keep the special cultural needs of their diverse student population in mind. Please note, however, that students' cultures include much more than their national origin or race. Treating everyone with equity is a must. Outcome 7. Experience direct field and clinical activities in the teaching milieu as an observer, teaching assistant, or practice teacher. Graduates will engage in culturally responsive teaching practices to help all students regardless of language, cultural barriers, race, geographic location, special needs, or poverty, including facilitating learning through joint productive activity among teachers and students, developing students' competence in the language and literacy of instruction throughout all instructional activities, connecting the curriculum to the experience and skills of the students and community, challenging students toward cognitive complexity, and engaging students through dialogue, especially instructional conversation. Outcome 8. Created an innovative alternative teaching approaches to improve students' learning. Graduates use effective and appropriate verbal, non-verbal, written, and media communication techniques in their teaching, professional collaboration, and interaction with students, colleagues, parents, and the community, like using inquiry-based learning. Inquiry-based learning is a powerful strategy that triggers students' curiosity. This allows students to formulate their own understanding based on research and questions. Students also get an opportunity to present what they have learned to the group and can reflect on what was successful and what needed more attention. Teachers act as facilitators and answer questions posed by the students as they work towards finding answers through research and independent discovery. Outcome 9. Practice professional and ethical standards for teachers anchored for both local and global perspective. Graduates are expected to demonstrate the disposition of professional educators in their teaching, professional collaboration and interaction with students, colleagues, parents, and the community. They are responsible for meeting professional expectation ethically with initiative. They are reflective, engaging, and ongoing self-assessment, unable to exercise sound judgment and critical thinking, and they are responsive as evidenced by the respectful, fair, and collaborative stance towards others and their commitment to help all students to learn. Lastly, the outcome 10. Pursued continuous lifelong learning for personal and professional growth as teachers. We are and we should open for constructive feedback and criticism for us to be able to grow. We learn to learn when we are learning through teaching and learning at the same time. Because the more we teach, the more we learn. So which of those 10 outcomes are you developing or have you already developed? These outcomes are set at the beginning of the degree plan. We, as a pre-service teacher, we are obliged to inscribe in our heart and mind to be clear and guided of what we should be able to achieve and master in 4 years, so we will be equipped with enough knowledge and all will be ready to conquer the world of teaching and learning once we get our license.
Hi everyone, so it's me Alimar Granada, and the topic that I am going to discuss with you today is all about the competencies of quality teachers. So, the competencies of a quality teachers mandated by the Department of Education, Order Number 42, Section 2017, or Philippines Professional Standard for Teachers. So aside from the quality teachers outcomes of CHED, the Department of Education or DepEd release a set of teacher competencies that are necessary for teachers who will be teaching in basic education. We shall focus first on the beginning teachers competencies. So for career stage level 1, beginning teachers are newly employed. So teachers who are most fresh graduates from college, as the beginning of teacher, you must process competencies that will strengthen those that you have masters already in your degree or course. So when you are going to employ those schools that you are going to teach with, so first is you have to undergo those competencies that help you to develop your teaching skills. Okay, so the PPST or the Philippine Professional Standard for Teachers domains with clusters of competencies are. So, from the competencies, we have also the domain from it. So, the first domain is competencies on content, knowledge, and pedagogy. The second one is competencies on the learning environment, competencies on diversity of learners, competencies on curriculum and planning, competencies on assignment and reporting, competencies on community and professional engagement, and the last one is competencies on personal growth and professional. Those are the 7 competencies that you have to undergo when you are going to apply as a teacher. Now, competency framework for teachers in Southeast Asia to be at par with other teachers in the Asian. So it would be important that you should also know about the competencies required to enable you to teach among ASEAN countries. So, kung if ever ma-comply nimo ni siya nga competencies, so you will have a chance to employ with the other countries, just like Thailand. You will become an international teacher from those countries that is nearby in the Philippines or the Asian countries. And then, so these are the competencies. So the competencies are knowing and understanding what to teach, helping students to learn, engaging the community, and becoming a better teachers. So these are the four competencies that you are going to develop with yourselves in regards of teaching those ASEAN countries that I have mentioned right now. So I hope that this will help as a future educator to gain more knowledge and to guide the right path upon taking our journey.
Good morning. So the continuation of our report is the new teacher education curricula. After considering local and global conditions, the Commission on Higher Education approved through a Commission Memorandum Order program standards and guidelines the offering of the new teacher education degrees to prepare teachers in basic education. The degree programs are on the principles of OBE, the PQF framework, that key to 12 curricula for basic education, and the general education courses for college degrees. Here are some new features. All future teachers will be trained on how to use technologies for teaching and learning. So the courses is Technology for Teaching and Learning 1 and 2. Second is, all future teachers will enhance skills in assessment of learning outcomes, so the courses is Assessment 1 and 2. Third is, experiential learning courses will be more focused on the application of theory to practice in varied contexts. So the courses is Field Study 1, Field Study 2, and Teaching Internship. Next is, all future teachers in the elementary level will be prepared to teach all subject areas including good manners and right conduct and the mother tongue. Next is, there are 2 degree programs that prepare teachers to teach both in the elementary and secondary levels. So the degrees is Bachelor of Physical Education or BPEd. Second is Bachelor of Technical Vocational Teacher Education. Next is 2 straight degree programs which were formerly the specialization in BEd before are offered now to prepare teachers who will teach early childhood education and special education. So the course is Bachelor in Early Childhood Education and Bachelor in Special Education. All other original courses will be enhanced. So this is the CMO number and the title of the degree. First, CMO 74S 2017 is BEd or Bachelor of Elementary Education. CMO 75S 2017 is Bachelor of Secondary Education with major in English, Mathematics, Science, Social Studies, Values Education. CMO 76 is 2017 or is Bachelor of Early Childhood Education. CMO 77 is 2017 Bachelor of Special Needs Education. CMO 78 is 2017 is Bachelor of Teaching and Livelihood Education. CMO 79 is 2017 is Bachelor of Technology and Livelihood Education. CMO 80 is 2017, Bachelor of Physical Education. CMO 81 is 2017, Bachelor of Science and Exercise and Sports Science and not for teaching degree. CMO 82 is 2017, Bachelor of Culture and Arts Education. The last one is CMO 83 is 2017, is Baccalaureate Diploma and Alternative Learning System. All of the above degree programs except BSESS adhere to the common program outcomes stated earlier to be achieved during the college preparation of pre-service teachers. Also embodied in the intended program outcomes are those of the PPST for beginning teachers and other teacher standards. The BEd and BSEd degrees are teacher education programs that prepare future teachers in basic education at the elementary and secondary levels. Bachelor of Elementary Education is structural or structured to meet the needs of the professional teachers for elementary schools and special programs. And the BSEd is structured to meet the needs of professional teachers in the high schools in the Philippines. So the program goals of Bachelor of Elementary Education aims to develop elementary teachers who are either generalists who can teach across the different areas in grade school or who can teach as a whole. The program goals of Bachelor of Secondary Education is aims to develop high school teachers who can teach in one of the different learning areas like mathematics, physical science, biological science, English, Filipino, social sciences, and among others. Curriculum of the BE-Ed and the BS-Ed, first is feature include various components that correspond to the basic and specialized knowledge and skills. Second is recognizes the need to equip teachers with wide range of theoretical and methodological skills. Last is also designed so that the components are integrated. It emphasizes the interviewing of foundational, theoretical, methodological, and experiential knowledge.
Course content to achieve the outcomes. What content should be taught to prepare prospective teachers in their future jobs? Course contents are means to an end of achieving the outcomes. These are theories, principles, generalizations, concepts, and ideas. There are three major clusters of subjects or courses which provide the contents of the degree program. Cluster 1. Professional Education Courses. These are courses that are common to all degrees which will provide a rock or foundation becoming a teacher. The course titles are follows. Letter A. Foundation Theories and Concepts. This cluster will provide foundations in philosophy, psychology, history, and sociology. We have the Child and Adolescent Learning Principles. This course deals with the study of patterns of human development, especially focusing on the cognitive, biological, social, moral, and emotional development of the child and adolescent learners. It aims to give the students the theoretical knowledge, appropriate values, and pedagogical skills to effectively deal with learners at different levels by investigating the various theories and learning principles of children's development, growth, and learning based on foundation research trends. Next is the teaching profession. Teaching is the specialized application of knowledge, skills, and attributes designed to provide unique service to meet the educational needs of individual and of society. The choice of learning activities whereby the goals of education are specialized in the school of responsibility of the teaching profession. We have the teacher and the community, school culture, and organizational leadership. This course focuses on society as context upon which the schools have been established. Educational philosophies that are related to the society as a foundation of schools and schooling shall be emphasized. Further, principles and theories on school culture and organizational leadership shall be included to provide prospective teachers to become school leaders and managers. We have foundations of special and inclusive education. This course discusses the philosophies and theories and legal basis of inclusive and special needs education, typical and atypical development of children, learning characteristics of students with special educational needs or gifted and talented learners with difficulty seeing, hearing, in communicating, and also walking or moving, learners with difficulty in remembering or focusing, learners with difficulty with self-care, and strategies in teaching and managing these learners in the regular classes. Letter B. Pedagogical content knowledge. The subjects will provide foundation, theory, and practice in the different aspects of teaching. We have facilitating learner-centered teaching and learning. In facilitating learner-centered teaching is a potent tool to help pre-service and practicing teachers understand the fundamental pedagogical principles, processes, and practices that are anchored on learner-centeredness and other educational psychologies as they apply to facilitate the delivery of teaching and learning. Assessment in Learning 1. The course focuses on the development and utilization of assessment tools to improve the teaching learning process. It emphasizes the use of testing or for measuring knowledge, comprehension, and other thinking skills. And to be followed by Assessment and Learning 2. This is a course that focuses on the principles, development, and utilization of alternative forms of assessment in measuring authentic learning. Students will experience how to develop rubrics and other assessment tools for performance-based example of portfolio and other product-based assessment, and also we have Technology for Teaching and Learning 1. This course includes ICT policies and safety issues, media and technology in various content areas, learning theories and principles in the use and design of learning lessons, teaching learning experiences, and assessment tasks that utilize appropriate traditional and innovative technologies considering social ethical. Teacher and School Curriculum. The course includes the fundamental concepts of curriculum design and principles in curriculum and curriculum development as the foundation to engage prospective teachers as curricularists. The more active role of the teacher in planning, implementing, and evaluating school curriculum as well as in managing school curriculum via various tasks, contexts of teaching, learning, and curricular reform shall be given emphasis. We have building and enhancing new literacies across the curriculum. This course introduces the concepts of new literacies in 21st century as an evolving social phenomena and shared cultural practices across learning areas. The 21st century literacy shall be include globalization and multicultural literacy, social literacy, media literacy, financial literacy, cyber literacy or digital literacy, eco-literacy, and arts and creative literacy. Letter C. Experiential learning courses. These are subjects that bring together theory and practice. We have Field Study 1. Observation of teaching and learning in actual school environment. This is the first experiential course which will immerse a future teacher to actual classroom situation and learning environment where direct observation of teaching and learning episodes that focus on the application of educational theories learned in a content and pedagogy courses will be made. Observations on learners' behavior, motivations, and teacher strategies of teaching, classroom management, and assessment and learning, among others, shall be given emphasis. A portfolio shall be required in the course. We have Field Study 2, Participation and Teaching Assistantship, or what we call Teaching Internship. This course is a continuation of Field Study 1. It is school-based and allows a pre-service student to participate and assess in a limited actual teaching or learning activities that relate to assessment of learning, preparation of instructional materials, preparation of bulletin boards, and other routines in the classroom. A portfolio which will contain sample lesson of or learning plans and demonstration teaching of at least one subject content area will be required. Adaptation research shall be encouraged to start in this course and conclude during the internship. We have Cluster 2, Major Courses. Major subjects are listed for every degree program as attached in the CMO. Example of major courses in science are organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, microbiology and parasitology, and many others. In Cluster 3, we have electives. Elective courses are additional courses in the curriculum instituted by school for further development of pre-service teachers from which students are free or supposedly to choose from. Example of courses on effective communication, creative writing, computer application, biological and other sciences, and etc.
Good day everyone, I am Jenny Rose Fortes. Pedagogical approaches to deliver the content and achieve the outcomes. The uniqueness of teaching future and teachers is that the delivery of strategy and methods come in two layers. The first layer will enable the learner who are college students to desired learning outcomes of the lessons. Find a strategy that will teach the content in the future workplace, which is the basic education. In other words, the pedagogy utilized should be teaching how to teach. The delivery modes may vary from the three modes or a combination of three. So first is face-to-face. A traditional delivery modes where the teachers and students are physically present to hold classes in a designated place. So it means here that face-to-face, this is where the teacher and the students meet in a set place for a set time for either one-on-one learning or most commonly in group class lessons, similar to what happens in school. And face-to-face learning is a really effective way to learn knowledge and skills because of often combines different ways of learning, including writing, reading, discussions, presentations, project, group work, film, clips, demonstration, and practice. Second one is distance learning or remote learning, online or printed modules. Distance learning is a delivery mode where the students and teachers are not physically present in one designated place or a classroom. So it says here that distance learning eye tracking is used to improve their text content and their students' progress, and is helping you to make strides in the educational field. So in addition, by monitoring student attitudes, attention, and concentration, and providing real-time feedback to teachers, the efficiency of the educational process can be improved. The third one is blended learning or flexible learning. This is a combination of face-to-face and distance learning. The whole course will be using the two delivery modes and should be reflected in curriculum syllabi. So for us, blended learning is a blended learning model is undoubtedly a great way to augment the learner experience, but its advantage to beyond that. Whether you're training employees, partners, customers, or planning compliance training organizations, using blended learning will reap many rewards. And the last one is experiential learning, lifelong learner. Following the theory and learning by doing experiential learning approach allows the learners to experience learning firsthand. Sometimes it is also called immersion, apprenticeship, or practicum. Experiential learning. So the idea is to bridge the gap between a strictly academic setting and a real workplace environment. Interns get to see knowledge in action while taking their own responsibilities. As a result, interns receive both educational and career experience to inform their future endeavors. So nowadays, there are many advanced competitive programs offered over winter, spring, and summer breaks that are similar in philosophy to internships.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Anastel Talyado de Gracia. For this time, I will discuss to you about the assessments of learning and learning to provide evidences for the achieved learning outcomes. Learning outcomes based teaching and learning is based on meeting set standards of teaching and learning to ensure students meet the requirements for a degree. Assessments is marked against criteria reference to the outcomes. And constructive alignment assessments is aligned to the intended learning outcomes and students construct knowledge through teaching and learning experiences. Students show evidence of how they meet the outcomes through assessments where they show construction of knowledge and skills. Teachings provides the opportunities for students to demonstrate their learning. The focus and constructive alignment is what and how students learn rather than on the topic that teacher teaches. So the action verb in a learning outcomes describe to students what they should perform to achieve the intended learning outcomes. For example, apply procedures or comfort theories. Learning activities are what the students undertakes to meet these learning outcomes, and students construct knowledge and skill based on the learning activities. So assessments show how well they have learned from the activities. Then the new teachers' education's curricular utilize multiple assessments methods in an off-learning sense. Assessments is used to determine the progress of learning formative and the mastery of learning summative. Multiple ways of doing it is necessary. The two courses about assessments are included the new teachers curricula for all degrees program. These are the assessments and teachings too. So, traditional assessments, theories, principles, and tools are taken in assessments and teachings. One, an authentic and technology assessments is taken in the course assessments and teaching too. So, the learning outcomes assessments is the mentioning the needs to make sure each learning outcomes is aligned with an assessments. It can be easy to come up with a handful of assessments to only later realize that one or two the learning outcomes haven't been addressed by the assessments. Additionally, You don't want to find that you have been using assessment that don't actually address any of your learning outcomes. So another is one easy way to ensure that your learning outcomes and assessments are aligned is to fill in a learning outcomes assessment alignment. So in the curriculum, planning includes the formulations of the desired outcomes for course or lessons. Then this should be aligned with appropriate content and methods in the implementations. And finally, evaluations which will determine whether the desired outcomes been achieved. Planning and implementation and also evaluation is in a curriculum to includes the formulation is all about is the first is planning. Planning is the process of thinking about the activities required to achieve desired goals. It is the first and foremost activity to achieve desired results. It involves the creation and maintenance of a plan such as psychological aspects that required conceptual skills. So the another one is implementation. So implementation is all about making a program work. It includes who, what, where, and how a program is set up and run. Research show that the quality of implementations plays a significant part of bringing about outcomes. So for me, the implementation is for future education. It should have to know the learning process of implementation. So the step 1 is analyzing needs for implementing an active learning strategy. So the step 2 is identify topic and questions. So the step 3 is identify learning objectives and outcomes. Then the step 4 is plan and design the activity. Another one is step 5 is identify sequence of learning events, and the last one is step 6 is evaluate and assess. So let's proceed. The last one is evaluations. Evaluation is the result of accomplishment, either the accomplished and how it was accomplished. For example, to adapt the materials to make them letters with the needs of the students and the needs of teachings. It also helps to improve teaching and learning. It helps in forming the values of judgment and educational status or achievements of students. So that's all. Thank you and God bless.